What's the worst case of rich kid syndrome you've seen? One of my college classmates wrecked his Range Rover over winter break and came back in an Aston Martin. In middle school we were asked to draw our homes for some assignment and hand it in at the end of class. A popular, extremely wealthy kid that sat behind me raised his hand and smugly asked the teacher for another sheet of paper because he couldn't draw it all on one page. His friends just snickered, but I was cringing. Even at 12 I remember thinking it was such a snobby thing to say. Worked with this kid who was a good kid, but completely disconnected from financial reality for most people. He'd just moved out west from another state and was trying to get on like a normal adult. He went to buy a new car and was shocked that they couldn't just bill his dad for it since they didn't know him. He ordered a bottle of wine at a restaurant and the sommelier said, "Certainly, sir." Then the sommelier whispered, "Just for your knowledge, sir, the bottle is $700. He looked straight at him and asked, "Is that a lot?" The sommelier honestly didn't know how to answer. Good kid, and he got a lot better, but he just didn't know. Once he casually told his mom he needed some help with bills and she deposited $20,000 into his account. Went to school with a crazy rich kid. His parents divorced and each decided to buy his love. Mommy owned a real estate agency, so she got him a license and spoon-fed him enough sales for a six-figure income. The dad then bought him a magazine. Yes, the dad bought a magazine for his 24-year-old cokehead son to run. Worked about as well as you'd imagine. I work for a dentist and her son is a spoiled brat. He was at the office one day because she had to bring him to an appointment later that day. He got bored and went out wandering around some of the local shops. He came back a little while later and without any preamble, walked up to her and said, "Give me $80. She asked him what it was for, and he just repeated himself, and she gave it to him. Edit, did not expect this to blow up. I'll answer a few questions if I can. So the kid is 19 years old. He was 17 at the time of this incident. The father is in the picture, but my boss, the dentist, is the main breadwinner and disciplinarian of the family. The husband is more like another child and just works here and there and lives off her money. She tries to act tough and instill certain morals and values in her kids, but then turns around and caves to all of their demands. For example, her twin daughters are going to university next year, and instead of staying in a dorm they demanded a 2-bedroom 2-bathroom apartment. They refused to share a bedroom or even a bathroom. At first she told them absolutely not, but they whined and complained and she caved. My boss is very much about appearances, and from a young age, got her kids accustomed to a privileged lifestyle. She created monsters. Edit 2. Yes, they are totally like Jane Ralphio and Mona Lisa Saperstein. My fiance's cousin. He managed to crash 4 cars while still in high school because his father would replace them. When he moved on to college, he got kicked out of several apartments for owning a dog when they weren't permitted. He told me he didn't care though, since his father also funded his continuous stream of new housing. From what I last heard, his father is now paying for his long-standing cocaine habit. My fraternity brother's monthly allowance of $2,000 was cancelled from his parents because he made a few F's. He then called his aunt for a separate allowance. Edit, the dude was a massive douche. His dad is a very successful stockbroker in the Memphis or Germantown area. The kid only went to college so he could earn a degree to work at that company. The kid already had it made from day one. I could write paragraphs on how big of a douche canoe this dude was. But honestly every single person who's replied here is a better person than he was. Edit 2. He blew the money on Xanax and weed. Edit 3. The kicker of this story was not really the amount, but the fact that the kid called up his wealthy aunt for more money. Edit 4. Change cuck to douche. Someone's sister got $600 shoes, so the parents got the other kid shoes of the same price to stop their complaining. Edit, it was a birthday present for the first kid I should said that. A guy looked at my $2,000 Beta car in college and commented that it must have been really cheap and guessed $15,000. Edit, for anyone curious, it was a Cario 2005 with 120k miles on it. I knew a girl whose allowance was $90 a day. She got into trouble, so they cut it to $90 a week. Knew this one guy at my college who didn't understand why everybody is so worked up about student loans. I remember him saying something along the lines of why don't people just pay the tuition upfront. He was also quite sheltered. My friend literally throws away his change because he hates holding coins. Doesn't matter if it's 99 cents, he'll throw it away. That adds up. Went to HS with this insufferably spoiled kid. Family had a couch in their home's elevator and classical European sculpture. This was in the US. Kid talked down to Slash about the less fortunate on a regular basis. Once made fun of me for picking a coin up off the ground. This kid back in high school was whining, I mean literally whimpering, that he had to wait something like 6 weeks for his custom-built BMW to come over from Germany. In high school a kid was bragging that he got in his third fender bender in his old car, 3 years old, that his parents gave him but he hated, so his parents were buying him an entirely new, current year, car to incentivize him to drive better. The Nintendo DS just came out. It was like $150 and my family lived in a cramped 1-bedroom apartment and drove a 20-year-old car that was always breaking down. We ate those cheap bags of Walmart beans and rice for months at one point. I expressed the desire to own one after my friend said he had one, and I got why. Can't your parents just buy you one? I don't get it. It's dirt cheap. He didn't want to be my friend after that anymore, literally avoided me and made fun of me for the rest of the year behind my back. I'm still salty about it. Maybe not rich kid syndrome, but middle class kid syndrome. My mom's friend used to buy new clothes each season and throw out the old ones. She had to be taught by her husband to save them for the next year. Edit. This happened way back in the 50s. Her family was very rich, and he was just a normal guy. So my best friend's wife teaches at a ritzy $40k per year private school, as in $40,000 a year for elementary and middle school. I think the HS is like $50k plus. Well, she teaches 7th or 8th grade, I can't remember, and she said she always goes around the class after the summer break and asks them what they did over the summer, and she particularly remembers one kid complaining about how much his summer, because he was stuck on his parents' yacht all summer, and they didn't even take it to anywhere cool, just Italy. I worked at a Starbucks, and we hired a new guy, who I was training. At one point, I had to show him how to clean the restrooms. I grab the bleach and hand him a pair of gloves, and he looks at me in disgust and says, "We don't have a maid to clean the bathrooms." He quit the next day lol. I wouldn't say rich kid, but definitely spoiled brat who thought he was rich. Befriended him in 5th grade over our interest in the UGR trading card game. First time I hung out at his place I noticed just how littered with stuff his room was. Some even unopened. I showed him some rare card that I had recently pulled from a pack. He got super jealous and angry that I wouldn't trade or sell it to him. He immediately got up and walked over to the family computer and booted up a site where you could buy cards and various other toys and such. Completely ignoring having me over, he's now on an online shopping spree adding stuff to the cart. After adding a few things he yells, "Where's the credit card?" And immediately his older sister comes running up the stairs to yell, "Kyle, Mom said no more buying stuff online," and closes the website and shuts off the computer. Kyle then proceeds to have a crying tantrum on the floor, and I'm just standing there over him in shock at what's happening and how he's acting. I slowly stopped hanging out with him until completely avoiding him as his temperament got worse. Kid wasn't even rich either. If I remember correctly, both of his parents were cops. My brother works at a rehab center for the kids of wealthy parents. He's always got stories, but the one that sticks with me the most was a kid who was in trouble with the law and doing rehab before his court appearances. You know, to look like a better person and hopefully the judge would go easier on him. He was mopey one day and my brother asks him what's wrong. The kid starts talking about how tough the whole experience has been for him, how it's been so hard on his family, that his parents had to sell his house to pay for his rehab. My brother felt sympathetic and says, "Damn, that your parents had to sell their house over this," to which the kid corrected him, "No, they kept their house. They had to sell mine." Went to a destination wedding in Mexico resort. Rich kids rented a golf cart, tore through the streets, and flipped the cart, injuring people and causing a huge commotion and traffic jam. A Mexican lady comes out and begins to scold them for their behavior. "You wouldn't act this way at home." Rich kid responds, "I promise you we do." It was the earnestness of his reply that got me. Edit. He really believed he was placating her with that response. There's gotta be a German word for something being funny because the other party is aloof to their own behavior.